Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fin Factor. I'm Paul.
I'm Aaron.
This is episode number 187. And Aaron, how appropriate that would have 187 for this show because, as many of you know, that is the California Penal Code for murder. And that is exactly what happened to the Sharks
We just stunk.
in these last two games. It goes beyond stinking at this point. This was beyond stink, Aaron. Stink, stank, stunk, the Grinch. This was horrid. This was we have people comparing us to like NC2A teams, saying that there's a possibility that we could be losing to some D1 hockey clubs. This is really bad, Aaron. This is beyond bad.
It's pretty bad. It's historically bad. It's nobody's been as bad as the Sharks. Soon. There have been teams as bad, but it's been a long time. It was a great time to pick your first game of the season to go to. By the way, I went on Thursday night, and that was just it was so bad that by the second period, a lot of people were leaving, and I was like, I need to watch this. Like it's like nails on a chalkboard, but I can't walk away. It was laughable at that point. I was laughing at my chair, at my seat. Like just I can't believe how bad it was. So bad.
Buddy, it's you're watching history, okay?
Yeah.
For better or worse, you're watching history. So of course, it's hard to turn away. It's like watching a train wreck that you just can't seem to turn your head from. But Drew earlier had said, "What up, Tank Nation?" I get the pun there because Shark Tank, us tanking. Absolutely. Noah Claxton saying that Mike Greer is having a player meeting here, saying you're making it too obvious out there. I told you guys no more than 7 a game. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I can't believe Aaron. Let's just jump right into the games here.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But Mike Greer did address the group, which is kind of unheard of for a GM to address the group this early into a season. But obviously, it needed to happen. So, we'll get into that a little bit, I guess, a little bit later.
Sounds good. Noah Claxton says Sharks making history this year for the wrong reasons. Absolutely. And Peter St. John, same thing that Aaron was just talking about. It says so bad the fans are starting to call for Greer's head. That is a problem. Absolutely. And we will jump into that and address that. It's not just Greer, obviously. Quinn, the main one that people have been talking about. But before we get into that, of course, a couple of things. First of all, if you are watching us, please feel free to hit that share button, hit that retweet or repost or whatever it's called. Get us out there to your Sharks friends and family. Let them know that we are here. We are live. Clearly, they're not subscribed. Otherwise, they would have got the notification. They would have been in the chat with us, and we all be having a good little laugh right now. But hey, thank you guys for being here. If you'd like to support the show, real quick, you can do that with the super chat function. You can also do that with Venmo. That's at the Fin Factor. And any comment that you put in there, we'll go ahead and read it out live during the show. You can also go to thefinfactor.com, support us there with any of the merch that we have for sale. So just want to get that out there right away. Thank you so much. But Aaron, we're going to jump straight into the Vancouver game. This one, a big, fat 10-1 loss. I mean, that's more than that's a touchdown, a field goal, buddy. That's ugly.
What really sucked was the Sharks didn't score their one until the end of the game. It was 10 unanswered goals. And then they finally scored. And I'm not joking. There was maybe at that point, I would say 2,000, 3,000 at most people left. And it was actually pretty loud because people were at that point, they were sarcastically cheering whenever either Blackwood or Kakinen would make a save. And so when the Sharks scored, it just blew up because everyone was just like not quite sarcastically, but I guess kind of in a way cheering for the Sharks. So it was kind of funny. It was just like, wow, that was really, what did I just watch? What was that? It's terrible. And there wasn't even a giveaway on Thursday. At least Saturday night's game, there was twice as many Sharks goals and a giveaway, something to take home. So I think they sold out on Saturday too, because that was such a sweet giveaway.
I'm pretty sure they did. I know one friend of ours was going to go to the game and bought some tickets, and they were still over $100 for the tickets.
Oh,
because it was the Penguins, right? The return of Erik Karlsson, and of course Sidney Crosby and all those guys that come to town. But then, yeah, of course they had the Jersey basketball jersey giveaway as well.
Warriors
So
mashup. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Which I saw someone at Costco actually was wearing one. It looked really nice. Wish I could have got one. Maybe we'll have to talk to Mr. Doug Bentz and see if we can get a couple of those or represent him on the show. That would be awesome. So yeah, 10-1. There's only a couple things I even care to say about this game, and it's going to be a lot of the same with the Pittsburgh game. With the Sharks in the Vancouver game, a lot of these goals came by way of defensemen just not even being there. Let's forget about being out of position, just not even there. 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s. And the other ones too, where the defenseman was there, where it's just kind of like a cross crease tap in, and it's like, yeah, you got to clear the net. Nobody's contesting the front of the net for the Sharks. So they've got no bite, to put it that way. So one of the things, and again, you're going to hear a lot of that in the Pittsburgh too, so I'm not going to harp too much on that right now. Something that happened in this Vancouver game, the one thing that I was actually upset about, we'll say, for the entire game, okay? Capo getting his head clipped after the 6th goal. Now, Kuzmenko, I think is how you pronounce this name, is the guy that scored the goal.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with him, okay? He's the guy that accidentally clipped Capo's head on the way by him after he shot and scored. It was just he was too close and he was trying to get out of the way. Capo's head was there, bumped into him. The reason I'm not upset with him is because he actually stopped immediately after that happened and had his hands up like, oh, I just hit this guy. His teammates are coming over to celebrate with him, and he was like holding off his team like, yo, not right now, hold on. And he goes over and he's looking over at Capo like, dude, are you okay? So what I'm upset about is not that he got clipped. I'm not upset with the player. What I'm upset about is that not a single Shark noticed this. Not a single Shark came over there to see if Capo was okay. They all just, we got scored on, put their heads down, had their little pity party, and skated back to the bench. The Canucks that were there, that were trying to celebrate with Kuzmenko, once they figured out that he was like, oh, wait a minute, I'd check on this guy. Once they figured that out, I felt like kind of all of them were like, okay, is he cool? And maybe they weren't all checking on him, but they certainly weren't celebrating, and they were looking at him like, okay, is he all right? Whatever. They showed more concern for the Sharks goaltender than the Sharks. That makes me mad. And that should never be the case. I don't care if you notice it when you're on the bench. Get off the bench. Go check your goaltender out. If you're the guy that's hopping on the ice, hop on the ice. Go check your goaltender out. If you're a guy that was supposed to be coming off the ice and you notice it, turn back around. Go check your goaltender out. I don't understand how not a single one of them, not a single teal jersey, went over to check on their goaltender. And there's 5 Vancouver players that are standing right there, and they seem more concerned with the guy than anybody on your team. Now, Nico Sturm said in a post-game interview that nobody on the Sharks bench saw him down, and that's why. I believe him. I believe that he didn't see it. I refuse to believe that 19 other players, 18 other players, because Capo's one. I refuse to believe that the rest of the bench didn't notice it, okay? And if they actually did not notice it, then they're, again, having their pity party on the bench, and they're not paying attention to anything that's happening out on the ice. I just don't believe it. So Drew's saying it looked like LeBanc saw it. I don't care who saw it. If anybody saw it, somebody should have skated over there to check on him, especially when the other team is showing more concern for your goaltender than anybody else on your team. If anything else, the optics of that, you should just think about the optics of that. They've got their whole team checking them out, and we're sitting here doing nothing because we're sad. I'm sorry. Get over there and check on the guy. What's the matter with you? Like, I can handle losing, but that pissed me off. That was just, for me, rock bottom. It doesn't get much lower than that. When you're down 6-0, your goaltender's hurt, and you don't care. That's a problem for me. Aaron, am I jumping off the deep end here, or do you agree?
We just stunk.
Groundhog Day. I just looked. We talked about this 2 episodes ago when Nashville was playing and Forsberg fell on top of Blackwood and nobody did anything. And they said that won't happen again. Lies. It happened again. Kakinen got hit. Was there anything that came afterwards? Absolutely nothing. It's absolutely pathetic that nobody checked on him. Nobody stood up for him. Nobody dropped the gloves for him. Nobody did anything for him. They just let him leave the game because he got a head injury. Now, speaking of his head injury, we don't know the extent of what happened. It could be, I don't know if it's a concussion or if most likely, because the way he got hit, he was kind of like, I think he was down on the ice and the guy skated through his head. So I think it'd be more of like a neck whiplash kind of thing. But either way, he's hurt and they had to bring up Magnus Krona because Capo's not playing right now. So who knows how long that's going to happen. But yeah, it's absolutely pathetic. This team is not a team. They are all individual players playing like they're individual players trying to get traded off of this train wreck. That's what it seems like. And trying to do everything themselves, which is why it's exponentially growing worse as we're going along.
I want to call out Grandizer 12's comment here. It says, Paul, is that just an isolated issue or is it a locker room issue? Does that stem for the players or the coaches? Is it an isolated issue? Well, Aaron just answered that one. No, this has happened before. Nothing's been done about it. They said that it wasn't going to happen again. Happened again, as Aaron just said. So no, but now here's the thing. That's also not me saying that nobody likes Capo. Nobody likes their goaltender. So to hell with that guy. I don't care if he gets hurt. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, and again, I use the term pity party. These guys are so fragile. We'll get to that word later on too. But they're so fragile that anything that bad happens, anything that causes them to sort of, feel a little bit down, it causes a full-blown collapse, and then nothing matters. Our goaltender got clipped. Well, it doesn't matter because I'm sad now. Dude, pick yourself up and just go play for the next shift. Go check on your goaltender. Whoever it was, he didn't mean to do it. I don't care. Hit that guy. Go after him. Show something. Show a little bit of heart. And this is what I'm talking about when I say, Aaron, that I want this team to be entertaining at least. When they just get railroaded, but no one seems to care, that's not entertaining. If they lost 10-1, but they were like, hey, man, you don't touch my goaltender. I don't care if it was an accident. You go apologize and give him a candygram. I don't care. Something's got to happen, right? That's entertaining. But when they're just like on the bench, come on, man. You guys are supposed to be professionals.
There's a lot of comparisons to the first 2 years of the Sharks when they were first in the league because they were terrible like this. But what did they do when they couldn't score goals? They were fighting. They were entertaining. They were pummeling the heck out of the other team because they didn't want to get embarrassed. And they knew they couldn't compete because they just didn't have the skill level. They're doing something, is my point. I'm not saying fighting is the answer.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they should be dropping the gloves all the time, but you got to give something. You have a sellout crowd on a Saturday and you turtle in like that and give up 10 spots after you already gave up 10 spots 2 nights earlier. Come on. You got to do something. You got to fire up the crowd. You got to fire up your team. Nobody's motivating anybody. They're all just playing for the paycheck and they're all playing to get traded.
I'll tell you what, no one's getting traded right now because no one's worth trading right now, which is just unfortunate. But Drew also said horrible leadership. Let's not forget the captain of this team is out. Okay. He's not on the bench to help with getting them back on track. So for a lot of people that don't like Logan Couture and say he's not the answer, he's not a good captain, et cetera, you can't blame him right now. That's for sure. And you can't tell me they would do worse with him on the bench. At least when he's playing a little bit, I don't think that we would lose necessarily 10-1, 10-2 as these games. Maybe we lose big, but I don't think we lose that big. He's a big part of this offense, defense. He's got a 200-foot game. I think, he would bring a lot to the table. And certainly on the bench, when things are going downhill, I think he gets, the mouth going. He's getting these guys' butts in gear just a little bit, at least a little bit, right? So I don't know. For me, you say there's a lack of leadership. What was the term you said? Horrible leadership. It's not that it's horrible. It's that it's non-existent. It's just not there, right? So we'll have to see when Logan Couture comes back. I'm not expecting wins. Don't get me wrong. But I think when he comes back, he's probably going to be whipping guys into shape just a little bit more from the bench. And I hope that we wouldn't see more of these 10-1, 10-2 atrocities, really. So yeah, again, for me, it's we can't even say that there's horrible leadership because he's not even there, right? And the other leaders, the guys that would be leaders on the team, a guy like Pavelski, Thornton, Marlowe, Carlson, right? All those guys are gone now. So who do you have left that you look to for leadership, right? I mean, Hurdle, is he the guy that you're looking to for leadership? I don't know, maybe. Sturm is a guy that I think is going to be a big leader at some. I mean, maybe he was, maybe he can be. I don't know. But right now, I don't think he has as much of a voice in that locker room. He doesn't have the rapport with those guys. A lot of the new folks that came in, that maybe a guy like, say, Joe Thornton did when he was captain with a big returning cast all the time. So, who do you look to for leadership here? I don't know that the Sharks have anybody right now other than Logan Couture who could be that guy to provide that leadership. Aaron, is there anybody on the bench that maybe you look at and go, that's the guy that needs to be firing these guys up without Logan there?
Maybe Duclair is the only other one that I could think of, but he's a newer guy. He's not a guy that's, been there a while. I don't think Vlasic is the one that would step up in a room and talk to anyone. There's too many kind of new faces in a way, and taking out Couture, man, this is what it would be like if you traded Couture, right? And you don't have much coming back on the other end. So I think once Couture comes back in that lineup, they're going to be solidified a little bit better up the middle, because then you have Hurdle and Couture as a 1-2 punch. And then you have Granlund that could either be on the third line or even jump onto the second line, let's say, with Couture. So I do think it will get better. I don't want to do complete doom and gloom. I don't think they're going to go 81-1 or whatever they're on track for. They did just go through a gauntlet of teams. These teams were all winning records. I think they're all winning records. It was pretty brutal.
Pittsburgh,
and people, what was that?
Pittsburgh, no.
Oh, Pittsburgh's the only one. But
yeah,
it's not like Pittsburgh's a slouchy team. They needed a slump buster, and they got one. So I think they're going to start getting better now. But my point is, the Sharks played a very tough schedule, and people were talking about the schedule and how bad for the Sharks it was to start the season because they knew it was going to be bad. So the Sharks knew it. It wasn't like a surprise, but man, it's tough. It's tough when you got right now. I think their defensive core is just miserable. There's nobody that would probably be in the top 4 on a good team on this team. They're pretty much playing a bunch of 5th, 6th, 7th defensemen and creating 3 pairings out of it, and it's showing. It is really bad. And then you have your best defensive forward, which Peter St. John just said. They're totally missing Logan. In my opinion, he's one of the very best two-way forwards in the league, plays and excels in every situation. Absolutely. When you take your best defensive forward out and you have a terrible defensive core, your team is not going to be good. Now, the one bright spot, I think, honestly, is the goaltending. Yeah, they just gave up 20 goals, but a lot of these goals were tap-ins they didn't really have a chance on. So it wasn't like they're still making some amazing saves. I think their goaltending is finally, to me, a lot better solidified than it has been in probably a decade. And it's unfortunate they just don't have the defensive core to help them, and the defensive forwards are not playing very well either. So it's plugging a hole of a sinking ship, and then more holes come shooting you in the face. So right now, I think the hole for the goaltending is better than it was, better than it has been in a long time.
All up in your face, huh, Aaron? Hey, we keep referencing 20 goals. We've only talked about one game. Let's get to the second one against Pittsburgh. 10-2 loss. It was the return of EK65, as we had said. And of course, you get a big draw with guys like Crosby and Malkin and Letang as well. But I think for this one, there's a big Pittsburgh contingent living in San Jose. And then, of course, with Erik Karlsson coming back, they gave him a nice tribute, and he gave the fans a little wave and everything else. He had some complimentary things to say about the Sharks in a pregame interview. I think it was maybe the day before, where he was just basically saying, they're going through hell right now, but it's going to be worth it because that's part of the process of rebuilding, right? So kind of nice to hear it from the guy that that was making $11.5 million over here. But regardless, so in this game, Mackenzie Blackwood was in. He ended up getting pulled, which was nice because it was kind of the debut here for Magnus Krona. So Magnus Krona came in. Unfortunately, things went just as bad for him. But again, as you said, and the same thing in the Vancouver game, there were so many of these odd man rushes. There were so many of these like on ones, not just like 3-on-2 odd man. It was like on ones, 3-on-1, 2-on-1. I don't know where the other defenseman is. I just kind of, having some time off by the bench, maybe, a little chat with the coach, say, hey, how am I doing? I don't know, but he's doing that in the middle of the game. So it's always like one defender back. And the other times that I've seen where it was more than one defender, it wasn't a defender. It was a forward. Like, it was one with Anthony Duclair. And Mario Ferraro. Pass goes across, and Duclair takes a knee, and Ferraro goes over where the pass was. So the pass comes back the other direction, and there's a guy for an easy tap-in goal. And these are the types of goals that are just, you can't let happen. There's no, it's not fair to blame goaltending for 2 games where it's 10 goals against, but like the majority of the goals are these ones where it's a pass across and it taps it in. The poor guy is stretching post to post as often as he can. Those types of goals, a goaltender isn't supposed to save. It'd be nice if he saves them. And it's certainly one that's a highlight reel, but that's why it's a highlight reel save. It's because they're not supposed to be making that thing. It's incredible when they do it. So for them to have this many opportunities that are 3-on-1s, 2-on-1s, that are just cross crease tap ins where the defenseman's not even there, or if he is there, he's not boxing anybody out. That was the biggest thing, was that when the defenseman was there, he was completely ineffective, which is basically a pylon. And this happened in both games. But we're talking about the Pittsburgh game now. This is one where we can sum the whole thing up, and we said it earlier in the show, but I'll say it again. This team is just mentally fragile, just fragile. Any sign of adversity and they fold. And this is not the same as the team last season, Aaron. Last season, we always talked about how the Sharks were bad, but they had no quit. There was a lot of fight in this team. This team, I don't know if it's that they don't have some level of compete, they don't have the fight, or if it's just that they're consistently out of position. But in my opinion, from what I've seen, and Coach Quinn says more or less the same thing, they are just a very fragile group. If anything goes wrong, it could be 1-0. It may as well be down 10-0. It seems like they're just kind of, again, having these pity parties on the bench.
We just stunk.
It's like a snowball effect. Like it sucks when you're losing and you're in this losing culture, which is why we talked about why they sent Bordelot down, why Eklund wasn't around the last 2 seasons, because he doesn't need to be around this situation when his contract allows him to not be, right? And to get better minutes. Same with Henry Thrun getting sent back down to the Barracuda. He's getting better minutes and more meaningful development time at the Barracuda level than this dumpster fire of a team in the NHL level. Anyway, I think I forgot where I was even going to go with this, but it's so bad.
Okay.
It's so bad. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
it's
completely lost my train of thought.
It's Google. Yeah,
No,
I'm sure you'll get your train of thought back. But we did have these quotes that we were going to say from Quinn. Now, we don't have video on this because the Sharks haven't really taken much video. And Sheng Peng is there with his camera, but it's Sheng's video. We don't want to even go there with using somebody else's stuff. So instead, we have some of the quotes, and I can read off some of the quotes if you'd like. Unless, Aaron, you figured out what you were going to say.
No, go ahead.
No, you're good? Okay. Yeah, so there was a lot of questions about job security for Coach Quinn. He says, in terms of him being concerned with his coaching staff's job security, he said, no, I guess it's an obvious question. I don't think about that for 2 seconds. I got a job to do. Now, later on in that interview, and it's kind of one of the last questions that was asked, he went on to say, I know you want to keep asking me about my job security and all of that. Maybe it's in a reporter's guide. That's what you're supposed to ask the coach after 2 games like this, but give me a break. Like, again, they knew from the season start that, this was going to be this type of a season, right? Where they've got a lot of guys that haven't played a lot of NHL hockey. They've got guys that are trying to prove themselves. They've got guys that are, like you said, Aaron, looking for a trade maybe, that are just trying to kind of revitalize their careers. Maybe they had a little bit of a downturn, like a Zadina, for instance, right? And they're looking to show that they still got it, right? They're betting on themselves. And it's one of those things where the chemistry isn't quite there because it's a whole bunch of new guys. And he says we acknowledge that before the season, and this is the situation that we're in, right? So it shouldn't come as a surprise, I guess, is what Coach Quinn is saying here. So just a couple of things that the great folks over at San Jose Hockey Now and those guys in the media room were asking those questions. We got to see the answers to those questions, so we wanted to share that stuff with you guys as well. So Aaron, your thoughts perhaps on any of the things that Coach Quinn had to say, even some stuff maybe that I didn't just go over, but there were some other questions as well.
Sure. I just saw one from Anthony Sanchez. Hey guys, who still disagrees with me that it will be 10 years before we make it back to playoffs? I don't agree with that. I don't think it's going to be 10 years. I think it'll be a lot sooner than that, actually. And I think I don't think they'll make playoffs next year, but I think they will be significantly better. Plus, they're going to have a lot of cap space to sign some free agents. In fact, I had pulled up the free agent list available for next season. This is assuming that none of these guys between now and then are signing any kind of extensions. But the number one free agent up there is Steven Stamkos. Would you take a Steven Stamkos on your team?
Yeah, I think most people would take a Steven Stamkos.
He would be 34 years old at that point.
Don't care.
You know why? Older.
He'll be 34 years old. And wait, when are you saying he's going to be 34?
Next summer.
Yeah,
by the time he's free agent.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then sign him to a 1-year deal and flip him to anywhere he wants to go.
Anyway, I think with all the cap space, you're going to have Will Smith. I wouldn't be surprised if Quentin Musty makes a good case for himself to join next season.
Yeah.
A couple of defenders that are coming in. I'm assuming Blackwood is still be here. I think next season is going to be a bigger turnaround. Again, I don't think they'll make playoffs next season, but I think it'll be a good building block season. And then the year after that, so I'm thinking in 2 seasons, I think they're going to be flirting with a playoff bubble team at that point. That's my thing. Okay. Plus the guys that you're drafting this season. They're going to possibly have 3 first-round draft picks this upcoming draft. One of those guys might even make the jump. Like the top guy, the top pick, whatever, would make the jump next season. So I think there's a good chance that this gets turned around a lot quicker than definitely quicker than 10 years. I don't think 10 years is going to be. Yeah, Will Smith is not playing next year though. I don't know about that. I think he wants. Obviously, he's playing at Boston. We'll know at the end of the Boston season, which is usually around March, if he signs a contract. If he signs his entry-level contract, and then he could play at the end of this season and get some of those games in. So I don't know, man. I think Will Smith would make the case to make the team next year. Quentin Musty's another one. A couple other guys that I can't even think of right now, but Daniel Gushin is leading the AHL in scoring right now, right? Like there's gonna be signs of life. It's gonna be coming. And if they get the number 1 pick this year, he probably will be playing next season, and it would be a great situation for him because he's not going to be the number 1 center. If was it Celebrini's a center, right?
Yeah, I think so.
You still have Hurdle and you still have Couture, so they can ease him in, get some probably a third line center, and then top power play time or second power play time, running the second power play. So I think the future is bright. They just need to work on getting. For me, they need the top was a blue chip prospect at the defenseman level. They don't really have that right now. There was somebody had asked a question here if you'd trade. Who was it? Hurdle for Shabbat, Thomas Shabbat in Ottawa. I wouldn't be against that trade necessarily.
Well, I wanna call out something here, and it looks like a couple of people are maybe agreeing. Hitman Hockey says he doesn't think Will Smith's gonna be anything, and that drafting him over Michkov was the biggest blunder in Shark draft history.
Okay.
I don't know that I agree with that, but I think some other fans here are saying, like Timo Time says he totally agrees. Um, there was talk that Mitchkov didn't want to talk with the Sharks. Okay, so then couldn't have done anything about that anyway. So Timo Time says, I promise you won't see Smith for another 2 years. Honestly, I don't even have a problem with that though. Like I'm totally fine with him kind of dominating at the lower level to get that confidence going. And I don't really have a problem with a 2-year plan for Will Smith. Having said that, we've got some other guys that are going to be coming up soon, hopefully. And then you've also got, like I said, we talked about Celebrini, but there's also the other guy, Iserman. There's another Russian. I cannot remember his name. And the funny thing is, this was supposed to be the draft year that was more defenseman heavy, and all we've heard about are these top forwards that are supposed to go 1-2 and 1-2-3, really. So I don't know. It's interesting because I really feel like there could be quite a bit of offense coming very soon. And obviously this team lacks offense, but boy, does it lack defense. So it will be very interesting to see what happens with the Sharks, with Mike Greer, in terms of going out and getting those guys. Now, we talked about the guys that are Greer's guys, right? The types of player that Greer wants, those hardworking type fellows. I'm curious if you think that that's working, because obviously, I mean, it doesn't appear to be, right. But are these guys good as depth pieces, but maybe not the building blocks of your entire team? Is that maybe where Greer kind of got this season wrong so far? And I don't mean he got it wrong in the sense that, gosh, we should be winning, but gosh, we shouldn't be losing, by a goal differential of minus 17 after 2 games.
Yeah, he met with the team. I think it was today or yesterday. I don't know which day, but he also talked with the press a little bit, and I have some quotes here from him. So from Greer saying, this is Greer's quotes: "The fans deserve more. The owner has been supportive and backing me and the team forever. If the response isn't there and I'm not seeing what I need to see, then everything will be evaluated. I'm sure there'll be some changes made." He also said, because he was asked about if David Quinn would be fired or not, and what he wants to see is if the team is hard to play against. That's all he wants, is the Sharks to be hard to play against. And that'll show me the players are still buying into whatever the coaches are preaching. That's a big barometer if they're hard to play against. If not, then maybe there will be changes behind the bench. This was terrifying to read. Since Greer and Quinn have been GM and coach respectively, the Sharks record at has been 22, 54, and 17, but at home 8, 27, and 12. The Shark Tank used to be a very hard place to play for every team coming in. Regardless if the Sharks are having an okay season or a really good season, it was always tough. So that is just terrifying, and that's sad. Like, to think about the last 2 seasons, how many wins have you seen when you've gone to the game? I'm trying to think of one, and I don't think I've been to a win at home now in a few years. I haven't been to every game, but all the games that I've gone to, they've freaking lost. So maybe I should just stop going altogether. But I think that
We just stunk.
a lot of people are probably doing that, which is hurting ticket sales. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really agree with that Will Smith assessment that he's not good. And then the Michkov thing, he wasn't going to be here for 3 years. I was hoping that the Sharks would take him because he would be here for 3 years. Because the Sharks' timeline, it made perfect sense for him to come in 3 years. And if Will Smith comes here in 3 years, then that's like, what's the point? You should have just drafted Michkov. Now, does Greer have an affinity for Boston-born players, or not necessarily born, but Boston area players? Probably. It's what he knows, and he knows all the people around there, so that's where his base is built. I don't think that's going to take a huge influence on who he's going to take. Michkov was, it's behind the Iron Curtain a little bit. It's a little risky taking a Russian player, especially your first draft, because I feel like the draft that he was only there for hired 3 days before the draft, 2 days before the draft. I don't consider that draft his. That was still Doug Wilson Jr. running that one. So I think this was kind of his first draft and first decision-making process for such a big deal on the direction of where the Sharks are going to go in the future. And I think he had to make the safe pick was Will Smith. The home run potential disaster is Michkov. What if, the political unrest in Russia, he doesn't come over ever? What if something happens? It's just, there's, I think, too much of a risk, and then you don't have that outstanding Russian player that's supposed to be like the next Ovechkin on your team, which I would love, but I understand that. I understand it.
Okay, let me see. Are you done with the Greer quotes, by the way?
Yes, I read through them. Thanks for paying attention.
I was just checking, buddy. I got other things.
We just stunk.
Doing other things in the chat here too, but let's see. Who is it that said? Oh gosh, where did it go now? He was saying Hitman is very passionate about this subject. He says, even still, you draft Michkov. I think he's saying the rumor was that he was going to only be drafted by a big hockey market. And Colin C said, Hitman said, Colin, even still, you draft him, and then if he doesn't want to play for you, you trade him. And then there's another comment here by some genius in the chat that says that puts you in a bad position with the trade partner, knowing you have to unload that player, though. Whoever this is, spot on, buddy, spot on. But yeah, that's kind of my take on that one. Look, if you're gonna trade the player that you would pick there, you would just trade the pick and get something that you want out of that pick. I wouldn't trade the player. So
you see his last comment? Here's the funny one. Here's a funny one. Not know.
Okay,
Nikolai Goldobin is the leading scorer of the KHL. Is that true? Is he really the leading goal scorer or leading scorer of the KHL?
Hey man, just goes to show the KHL ain't that great of a league then, okay?
That's incredible if that's true.
That would be amazing. You know what else is amazing? Minus 43 goal differential through 11 games. 43. Now that does not mean that they had 43 goals against. That means 43 goals minus 43. So they have 10 goals for, Aaron, is it? On the season?
Weren't they up to 11 now?
Oh, is it 11?
Because they
can't possibly be. I'm going to say 10.
Hold on, I'm going to look right now. 12. 12-4, 55 against.
12-4, 55 against. Yeah. 43, minus 43. Yeah, and 17 of that, minus 17 goal differential in just the last two games alone, because, again, 10-1 and 10-2 losses. So just incredible, historic Sharks hockey happening this year, guys. So like I said, now is the time to jump in. I can't imagine it getting much lower than this. I don't even know what else to say about that. My goodness. No, what do you got?
Don't you jinx them. They're going to put up 11 now.
Hey, if they put up 11, I will buy myself a Noah Gregor jersey, okay?
You heard it. You heard it.
Aaron, you've got a couple of posts here. We say tweets, but they're not tweets. They're excellent.
We're talking about how historically bad the Sharks are.
Yes,
so Darren Stevens, if you're not following Darren Stevens, you need to follow Darren Stevens on X, Twitter, whatever Elon wants to call it. He gives out amazing stats. He's just a total stat geek that they're awesome. So he put minus 42 probably because he wrote this during the game, but minus 42 goal for differential is the worst in NHL history through the team's first 11 games of a season. San Jose's 0-10-1 start is tied second worst only to the Coyotes, who did it twice, and the 43-44 Rangers, who are only team to start 0-11. So at least the Sharks have won. Well, they didn't have ties, or they didn't have overtime back in the day when the Rangers were playing. The other one, the next tweet that I got, again from Darren Stevens, the 23-24 Sharks are the first team since the 71-72 Kings to lose consecutive games by at least 8 goals each. LA lost 10-2 at Montreal and then 8-0 the Rangers the next day. Overall, it's the fourth time in NHL history a team has lost consecutive games by 8+. Making history, folks. Getting in those history books. Not in a good way, but at least they're there. They showed up, right? Or I guess they didn't show up. Yeah, this is just so bad that, again, all you can do is laugh. That's it. That's all you can do. Can't get mad. Just enjoy the process. It's going to be a long one. We're watching the sausage getting made, and it is ugly.
We just stunk.
Nobody wants to see how the sausage is made.
Harry Warden says the curse of EK65 continues. First the Sens, and then now the Sharks and the Pens are next. Yeah. It's hilarious when I heard how bad the Penguins were coming into that last game. And it's like, yeah, it's a team that has Erik Karlsson on it now. It's and again, I don't have a problem with Erik Karlsson, but you have to admit the teams he's played on have been pretty cursed. Like he's saying, my goodness. What was this? One of the quarterback the power play. What is this now? I mean, at this point, get Paul and Aaron on skates. No. You don't want that. Jeez, you'd be really mad if you did that. You guys think you're upset watching these guys play. You don't want me out there. That is for sure.
I did just dust off my skates on Saturday with the kids, and we went ice skating.
There you go.
That's fun.
All right, so I guess in general, the final story here about the whole minus 43 goal differential thing through 11 games is that we're not hanging this on the goaltenders. I mean, we've seen enough. You know what's funny, Aaron? Because it seems like every year when the Sharks are getting beat and we talk about the goalies are bad or whatever else, and I'm always the guy that says, hey, wait a minute, it's a team game, the defense doesn't look good, et cetera, and people call me the goalie apologist and whatever else. Fine. Dude, I'm sorry. In these last two games, the 20 goals against, there's only a handful that I would really put on the goaltenders. And the rest of it is just like, guys, you've got to show a little bit of support to these goalies. And as super producer Jason put down here, you can also support the show with the super chat function if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and say that one more time. And also Venmo at the Fin Factor. If you'd like to put a comment there, you can hear it coming out over the live chat here. And we'll go ahead and voice it and answer your question to the best of our ability. So there's that kind of support. But the support I was talking about was from the Sharks to their goaltender. They're not giving it to him. There's no defense. There's a lot of tic-tac-toe passing for easy tap-ins, and there's nobody in front of the net clearing anybody out. They're just kind of standing there like a pylon, letting the other team do whatever it is they want to do. So when you've got a team surrounding you like that, I don't care what goalie you are, you're going to let in a handful of goals and a handful more than you ought to. So I don't know, man. That's kind of how we see it. Before I move on, I want to call out Anthony Sanchez because he says, guys, now my wife throws shoes at the TV instead of me. So that's a positive.
So
See, it used to be, for those of you who don't know, Anthony Sanchez was the guy whose wife would throw a shoe at him every time we talked about trading. Was it Burns?
Burns, yeah.
It was whenever we talked about trading Burns. This was obviously a while back. But now she's moved on to throwing a shoe at the TV instead. So glad to hear that you are safe and sound, Anthony. And thank you for sharing that with us. Appreciate that, Aaron. The goal scoring leader on this team. Who would have thought Fabian Zetterlund's got 3 goals?
Hey, he's a guy that could chip in some goals, but he shouldn't be leading a team in goals. But I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he's getting on the scoreboard and he's one of the guys. I feel like he's one of the few bright spots. He at least for the forwards, right? Like to me, I feel like he's out there hustling on almost every shift. He's not really, he doesn't coast. He's working hard, and I'm glad to see guys like that get rewarded rather than other guys that have control or disconnect. And they just skate. Like there's a play. I remember watching this happen. I saw Kevin LeBanc, and I hate to keep calling him out, but he was trying to skate and keep up with a guy on a back check, and he was out of gas. You could just see it. He couldn't move, and he just stopped moving his legs and just coasted. And the guy, I can't remember if he scored, if he passed it off, like because it was like a 2-on-0. But it was just like it was crazy. So to me, I think Zetterlund is one of the few bright spots, and it's good to see him get rewarded. Still leading the team is Hurdle. And he's got, let me double check this real quick. I think he's at 7 points in 11 games. He's got a goal and 6 assists. He obviously needs to step up the goal scoring. Duclair had a pretty nice goal in the Pittsburgh game on the power play, got in the high danger scoring position and buried it. I thought it looks like a very good goal. At that point, the game was already well out of hand, so it wasn't a huge deal. But lines in the blender coming up for tomorrow night's game, which is exciting because now the big news is that they have moved William Eklund up to Tomas Hertl's line. So we'll see how that plays out with the game tomorrow for at least the offensive side of the game.
Yeah. I have not liked the combination of Eklund and Cunnin.
Yeah.
That's been very disappointing. Eklund's doing everything he possibly can, and Cunnin's just. I mean, I like the guy. Don't get me wrong, but he just can't seem to capitalize on any of the setups that Eklund has given him, and there have been quite a few. So it's a shame. I will say this though: I don't think the team was nearly this bad when Henry Thrun was in the lineup. So
maybe that's why he got demoted.
Yeah, we're looking
like,
okay with you here.
Stop
so
what you're doing. You need to stop it right now.
Probably the case. It's gonna wreck Eklund. Hitman says. Yeah, Cunnin is a fourth liner. You know, I would say I would put him on like a third line on a decent team. I can see where you might say fourth line as well, but he's one of those guys that, you know, we have the garbage collector slide, which we haven't really been able to use this season much. But you know, he's the guy that gets in front of the net, gets in the goalie's eyes, gets these trash goals. So I wouldn't necessarily call him a fourth liner. You know, he's a little bit higher than that to me, but for a guy like Eklund to be making the plays that he's been making, and for him to just not be able to capitalize on it, it's really been, like I said, kind of disappointing. So, I'd be interested in seeing how Zadina would work with Eklund. I think that one might look a little better. I know Zadina hasn't looked great lately, but I think he's the type of guy that could capitalize on the passes that Eklund's making. He'd buy him a little bit of time and space, and Zadina could probably get a few more goals playing alongside a guy like that. That's kind of my thoughts on that one, but I don't know.
I like Cunning because he works hard every shift.
Yeah.
He's working hard. That's why he's playing up in the lineup, because he is working hard. Other guys are not. I'm not saying he shouldn't be a fourth liner or he should stay. He should be a third or fourth liner. He shouldn't be up in the lineup, but because he's working hard, he's getting up in the lineup. That's why he's up there.
So some folks are actually calling for Greer's head in this. Some folks want Greer gone, and that to me is shocking because again, it's a rebuild. He needs time for the rebuild. I think a lot of hockey fans are maybe sometimes a little bit newer to the sport, and they're used to like basketball, for instance, where you can draft a guy who can immediately make an impact on your team and then carry that team to a playoff berth or something like that. The hockey's not quite like that. So it takes time for the guys that get drafted, for the trades that you make. There's a lot more players that actually, step on the ice than there are like players on a basketball court that would step on the court. Right. So there's a whole lot more moving parts for hockey. And there's a lot of things that need to happen, right, for a lot of players to make a team good. You can't just have one and expect that, hey, we're going to be awesome now. So I can't put Greer, to the grindstone for this. We all knew that this was going to be a rebuilding year. We all knew that they were going to be really bad compared to even last season when we were really bad. So I think Greer just needs a little bit more time, a couple of years to really show that he's on the right track. And I think so far, even he's showing that he's on the right track, not by the record, obviously, but simply by the amount of draft picks that he's collected, the trades that he's made, getting some of the contracts out of here to bring younger talent, prospects, draft picks, to bring those things in, because that is what you want out of your rebuilding stage. You're not looking at the team's record in the rebuilding stage. You're looking at what's the draft capital they're bringing in, what's the futures that they're bringing in. And so far, I think Greer has done that. I think Greer has really gone after the futures, not just in the players, but also, as we've said before, he's bringing in development staff. He's bolstered those departments more than I think any Sharks team maybe has in the past. I think there are positions that were just created on this Sharks team that the Sharks didn't even have in the past. I think it was like a guy that was wearing many hats, or they just didn't bother with a lot of this stuff. But we're seeing a lot of guys that had come in when Greer came into the league that just were hires, not replacements, just full-blown hires. So he's just adding staff, and a lot of that has to do with the development for younger players, the prospects. So I think in terms of where we are, absolutely Greer's doing the right things. It's just that it's not something that the fans want to see. Again, they don't like seeing how the sausage is made. It's ugly, right? It is ugly. The on ice product right now is ugly, but the things that are happening behind the scenes so that the future won't be ugly, I think he's doing the right things. Aaron, would you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, I think there's different ways to do a teardown and a rebuild, right? There's the Chicago way where it was a fire sale and they got rid of everybody, and they luckily got Bedard. If they didn't get Bedard, would they be being criticized as much as Greer is right now? Probably. Colin C28. People forget the Giants, Niners, and Warriors went through their own rebuilds. Remember when people booed Joe Lacob when they traded Monte Ellis? I do remember that because they said at that point, they said Steph is the future. Monte was kind of in the way. And so they traded him, and people are like, you're nuts for trading him. Like that's going to blow up in your face. And did it? No. So Greer's kind of doing a slower tear down and rebuild. He's giving away pieces. Now, people are also complaining that they didn't get enough prospects back. And that's always going to be a complaint that I would never have traded Timo for this without getting that. Well, that's not what the market dictates. No team was going to do it because the cap space and everything else, because most teams in the league right now are stuck up against the cap. So they have to get very creative for this, for any kind of trade that's going to happen, especially for these contracts that are long, either long in years or in money or both. In most cases, the Sharks had a lot of both. So there's only so much that Greer can do, and he can't just blow up the team and sell everybody for next to nothing. So what was important for him, especially in that Timo trade, instead of getting one prospect back, I think he got a couple things plus draft picks and all this other stuff. And that was what he was saying was we could have gotten a deal where we would have gotten, I can't remember the name. Was it Dawson Mercer, or was it there's somebody else in New Jersey that a lot of people wanted. And
Holtz.
I think they could have, what is that?
Holtz.
Yeah.
I want to say the name was Holtz.
Essentially he could have gotten that, but he's slowly rebuilding the team and getting what we thought were NHL caliber players so that he can get them in the lineup. Younger guys who are more ready. I'm terrible with his name. Mahuk Madolin. Is that
Madolin?
Was it?
Mook Madolin.
Mook Madolin. I was so close.
I am the Dan Rizanowski of this show.
I'm excited to see what he can bring, because that was pretty much the biggest piece coming back other than the first round draft pick. So I don't know. And Hitman Hockey Cards, Greer wants quantity over quality, mainly because what if that prospect is a bust? Now you traded Timo Meier for nothing. At least you're kind of spreading out the hits, if you will, if something goes wrong, right? I'm going to be terrible. Mook Madolin has tremendous potential. He's not going to be a stud number one defenseman, but I think he could be probably more of what at his peak would be a top pairing defenseman for a top offensive defenseman. If that makes sense. He'd be more of the more stay-at-home guy. But whatever. I mean, look, how's Timo Meier doing on New Jersey right now?
Yeah, benched, didn't he?
Yeah, when he was on the Sharks, he was the man because he had to be. Now he doesn't have to be in New Jersey, and he's not thriving. Plus, how many other teams were out there in that were able to get him, right? Or in the running to get him?
Yeah.
That would be able to afford him.
See, and I think there's a difference, because a lot of us can theory craft some better trades, right? We could theory craft better returns, but like you said, it's not what the market dictates. So you get what you can get. I mean, what's the alternative, right? If you don't get exactly what you want, New Jersey says, fine, well, we just won't make the trade. And then you're stuck with a guy who you're going to have to pay, what, $10 million a year to keep him on a team that's rebuilding? I don't know. I think you kind of just have to do whatever you can. If you have to get rid of him, if you're not getting the exact return that you want, but you're getting something that's sort of acceptable, then you have to do it. Because otherwise he's just going to walk. You're not going to end up resigning the guy. Would that be better? Would him just walking? I don't think so. So I think, again, maybe you can call it getting fleeced if you want to. But that, again, at the time, that's what the market dictates. If there was a bigger market for Timo Meier, he would have got a bigger return, period. Right. So I think he did the best that he could with the cards that he had. So I don't know. Again, I'm hopeful, and hey, who knows if Timo ends up going, to the Eastern Conference Finals or whatever that part of the deal is. Okay, we get another first round draft pick out of it. Okay, great. Is it going to be a late round one? Obviously, if they make the Eastern Conference Finals, yes, sure, but it could be something that we package together as part of a trade. So who knows? So I don't know. I think you have to take what the market dictates if you are going to trade that player. We didn't have a choice. We needed to trade that player because, again, he ain't going to sign with us again. And if he is, he's costing way too much money for a team that is in the middle of or going to be starting, I should say, a rebuild. So I don't really fault him for that. We've talked about this trade, kind of ad nauseum. But again, I don't really fault him for the Timo trade. Is he worth more than that? Sure. But again, this isn't like, EA Sports. We can't, force the computer to do one thing or the other. So it is what the market dictates, as Aaron said. So I don't know. We'll see how that one shakes out. Again, it's going to be, probably a couple of years until we look back and say, you know what, this was really good for the Sharks, or man, that was really, really bad. With the capital that we got back, we didn't use it properly or whatever. That's, for the future to figure that one out. So we have a lot of experienced GMs here in the chat. Yeah, you know what, man? I think a lot of folks, they enjoy that, though. That's part of the fun of it, right? It's like fantasy hockey. It's the same type of thing where you look at, cap friendly and you start doing your own kind of armchair GMing and everything. And it's fun to do, don't get me wrong. But for you to say, man, they should have done this, why didn't they do that? Well, that wasn't on the table then, right? I doubt that there's a scenario that we could think of that professional GMs haven't figured out that, hey, maybe I would like that instead. I seriously doubt that. So I think it just comes down to, as Aaron said, what the market dictates. And in this case, that's what we were able to get. So is what it is. I don't think that makes Greer a pushover in any way, shape, or form. I think he just did the best he could with the situation that he was dealt. We're talking about Greer maybe getting fired, but I think the more likely scenario here, and this will be our roll call question, is should Coach Quinn get fired? Now, I've got my opinion. I'm sure, Aaron, you've got your opinion as well. But let's say this now. Okay, there you go. What city are you watching this from? And should Coach Quinn get fired? Now, Aaron, I've talked a bit here already. I'm going to pass this one off to you. You will go ahead and let me know your thoughts on the situation with Coach Quinn.
I mean,
if we just stunk.
There's double-digit goals scored against, then I think he's handcuffed and doesn't have a choice and has to fire him. I don't think he should. Again, I think when Coach Hare comes back, he's going to be a little bit better. The team will be better defensively. I'm not going to say they're going to start winning and going on streaks, but they're not going to be as embarrassing. I think he also had a rough patch. The team had a rough patch of going through the gauntlet of those ridiculously good teams. I mean, Pittsburgh was the one losing team on the schedule, and it's not like they're slouches, right? I think he's definitely, I wouldn't say on the hot seat, but his seat's getting warm. How about that? So I was talking about this in the fantasy hockey group. I don't think they should really assess him until probably closer to New Year's, because at that point we should know. And what's the point of firing him? Like, what is someone else going to come in here and do anything better? I don't think so. So unless you have the future coach already lined up and ready to go, I don't think there's anyone that you could really bring in that would change this or turn it around, especially in mid-season. I think you just let it play out for another year. But definitely reassess by the latest would be New Year's, maybe even a little earlier. Maybe the end of this month if it's really bad, and then the end of New Year's. What do you think?
Well, I think I want to call out Peter St. John's comment here first. It says, I think it's likely that whoever takes over is going to be hard-pressed to do better. Absolutely. To me, this isn't a problem with the coach so much as what the coach has to work with. And again, we can lay that at the feet of GM Mike Greer. But again, this is a rebuilding year. We knew this team was going to be this bad. And even in I'll go back to, the quotes that we had from Greer. I'm sorry, not from Greer, from Coach Quinn that we already had said earlier, is that, again, if you look at some of the guys we haven't played a lot of NHL hockey. That's the situation we're in, right? Guys trying to prove and establish themselves. We all acknowledged that before the season started. That's the situation we're in. So it's like there's no surprises here. We knew we were going to be this bad. You knew we were going to be this bad. The GM knew we were going to be this bad. Everybody knew we were going to be this bad. I mean, to take a look at every article written before the start of the season, they said power rankings. It was everyone in the NHL, some D1 hockey clubs, and then the San Jose Sharks. Everybody knew we were going to be the worst team in the league, right? And yet here we are talking about, oh, Coach Quinn needs to be fired. Well, I don't think he needs to be fired because of the performance of the team and the record of the team. Okay. What I do think, if he's going to get fired, is that, there are still standards for even on a rebuilding team. There are still standards. You shouldn't be losing games 10-1, 10-2 back to back. That's ridiculous. If they lose the next game 10 anything, I don't care if it's 10-9. If they lose the next game 10 anything, now I'm on board. Okay, we need a change of coaching. Now I'm on board, because then it's just a matter of the message isn't getting through. The players aren't respecting what the plan is. In fact, I think I might even have something from Duclair here kind of saying that, and I will flip through a little bit. Yeah, here it is. I don't know what else the coaches can do. It's on us. They're doing a great job motivating us and getting us ready for the games. The game plan is the game plan. We just got to follow it. Right now, as players, we're not following it. Are they not following it because the message from Greer is just deaf? Now they're deaf to it now. Is that what the problem is? Because if so, a new coach might help get that message across, whatever that message is, right? But I don't think that any other coach, I think it was, I forget who it was. I don't think any other coach is going to do any better necessarily with having new pieces, because there are no new pieces. He's the new piece. So he's working with the same group of players. You're going to have the same problems. And it's just a matter of whether or not your message gets through. So if Quinn's message is not getting through, then I could see, okay, let's remove him, put somebody else in place, and see if we can get the message through. Now, are we still going to lose games? Yes. Do I care? Absolutely not. I still want them to lose games, okay? But again, the point is you should be at least entertaining to watch. And when you're losing 10-1, 10-2, those are not entertaining games. The players aren't listening to the coaching staff if that's the case. They're not following the game plan. At least follow the game plan. You're going to lose a game, lose it 5-2. Okay, I'm fine with that. But this 10-1 stuff, holy smokes, that stuff's got to go. So that's kind of my take on whether or not Coach Quinn should be let go. I think, in the next couple of games, if they're getting blasted like this, and I think even Greer, right? Aaron Greer had said this, like the fans deserve better than this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he said that. Now, I was just thinking about this as we were sitting here talking, looking back at his quote. If the response isn't there and I'm not seeing what I need to see, then everything will be evaluated, and I'm sure there will be some changes made. Do you think a trade early kickstarts this team, because then everyone's kind of on high alert, like, oh my god, I could be gone, I could be out of here? Maybe it's a little bit different because the Sharks aren't expected to be good. It's not like, and someone said this earlier, do you see how bad Edmonton is? Did you see how bad they are in the standings?
Can I tell you something though?
What?
Edmonton is at least entertaining to watch, though. That's the difference.
They have 2 wins.
Sure.
That they have Connor McDavid and have 2 wins, and Leon Draisaitl. Like, that's a team that's supposed to be a cup favorite, and they are 4 points better than the Sharks in the standings.
I'm not overly concerned until when, Aaron? When's the time that we start judging teams?
Thanksgiving.
There you go. Once we get past Thanksgiving, past the 20-game mark or so, I think we start seeing what Edmonton's really all about.
We don't need to talk about Edmonton. It's just like, it's very different when you are Edmonton versus the Sharks this season, because the expectations are so different for both teams, right? I don't know. I think
Hitman says Edmonton is a bigger disappointment than San Jose. I agree with you, because Edmonton is supposed to be higher up in the Sharks. Again, every article you ever read preseason said Sharks are going to be last in the world. Okay, they're going to be last. So this is what we thought was going to happen anyway. So I agree with you.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see a trade by Thanksgiving for the Sharks to shake things up.
I could possibly see that happening.
Yeah. There's a question. Oh, go ahead.
Are you going to do? Is there a question in the chat, or are you going to do the Reddit one?
The Reddit one.
Okay, go ahead, fire away.
All right. Question on Reddit. Who are you sending to the All-Star game from this team as of right now? Who would you be sending?
Does every team get representation in the All-Star game?
There's one player from every team.
100% all the time.
They had to. Otherwise, nobody from their team would watch.
It's got to be like Eklund maybe or Zetterland or whoever has the most points come that break.
Right now, it's Hurdle. He's got 7 points in 11 games. I would think Hurdle. To me, it's Hurdle.
Sure.
Nobody in their comments was saying Hurdle. I was like, what? What's wrong with Hurdle? He's already been there once, and he had fun. He's a very charismatic guy. He's perfect representation for the Sharks. The next
Hitman says yes, you have to send one. I thought that there was a possibility of a team or two not actually being able to send one.
I think they did that a while ago, a long time ago. There wasn't a rule that you had to send one, but then teams were sending like 3 or 4, and teams had 0. It was like,
out of respect for the integrity of the game, whoever gets picked from San Jose needs to fake an injury, not go, because we don't deserve to be there. Okay. Allow another player who is actually good to go to the All-Star game, represent their team with their teammate, whatever. But yeah, I think out of respect for the game, you back out. That's
Sengushin from the CUDA. That's a good one.
What?
Sengushin from the CUDA.
Yeah, there you go.
William Eklund has the same amount of points as Philip Zadina.
Okay.
Zadina has 2 goals. Eklund only has 1 goal and 1 assist. He needs to start. Hopefully he starts now that he's going to be on the top line, that he starts putting stuff together.
You're saying Eklund needs to?
Eklund needs to, before he goes to the All-Star game, he needs to step up.
Oh, yeah. No, there shouldn't be a Shark going to the All-Star game. That's
I thought that'd be fun.
Even the league should go, hey, we selected Hurdle, but come on.
Yeah.
Nope, not Luke Cunnin.
Nope.
He ain't going, baby. Luke All-Star Cunnin LM, you are smoking, buddy. I don't think so. Okay, sorry. Yeah, who are you saying? I don't send anybody. So there you go. That's my no matter who gets picked, I tell them, hey, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. So there you go. You know what? Here's one guy I wouldn't mind though. And a lot of people may be going to get a little upset, and that's fine. But did you know Phil Kessel is still a free agent?
Did you see what I wrote in the notes?
Well, yeah, he's eating hot dogs. He's just sitting on the side, hammering hot dogs, just enjoying life as a free agent, chilling. I would offer this guy a contract at this point. And again,
does he have 3 rings now?
Yeah, he's got 3.
3, right?
In Toronto, they told him you'll never be a Stanley Cup champion.
Yeah. He's won 3. And they still have not been to the finals since.
So here's what I do. Okay. I signed Phil Kessel. Okay. I don't, because nobody wants him right now. Nobody's signing him. So I'd sign Phil Kessel. I'd have him play it out. What's the worst that could happen? We lose every game? Because that's kind of what's happening. So, he says, but we don't have the cap space. Honestly, I think he would say, do we have any cap space? Do we have a little cap space? Because I feel like this guy just wants to play in the show. I think he just wants to play.
But our current cap space is $3.5 million.
We have $3.5 million?
But we have Couture on IR, so that's taking a chunk off.
Fair enough.
When he comes back, that'll change.
I would find a way. And I would get Phil Kessel on this team. Not because I think he's going to help us win any games necessarily. Not because I want to win any games necessarily. But I feel like Phil Kessel could be this guy that a lot of teams are looking at going, we can't fit him on the team, or we think he's old and washed up. Give him the opportunity, 1-year contract, pay him let's say we had $3 million in cap space, whatever. Pay him the $3 million, and then when it comes time to move him on to another team, retain half of that. Why? Because at the end of the season, that contract's off the books anyways, right? And you're doing somebody else, another team, a solid. To me, that makes 100% sense if it means that you can get, I don't know, a 3rd-round draft pick out of it or whatever the case may be. I would totally go for this.
I wanted, before the season started, when free agents opened, I wanted the Sharks to sign him. I would, at this point, I definitely would have rather have had him than Hoffman on the team. Hoffman's making over $4 million. That easily could have gone to Kessel, done a better job. He'd probably have like 5 goals at least and leading the team right now. And he probably eaten 10 hot dogs in both of those games too.
You know what? I think that's a selling point. If you ask me, a lot of people, why do players like playing in San Jose? And it's the weather and everything else, and that's great. I think for Phil Kessel, this team is so bad that they would allow him to have hot dogs on the bench. Okay, and I think that's a major selling point for Phil. You laugh all you want, buddy. I'm just saying. I think
you imagine they do a bobblehead of him as a hot dog vendor.
I think they need the bobble, but not the bobblehead, the bobble hand where it's holding the hot dog and it goes like this. I think that'd be great. Hey, any Sharks reps that are listening in on this, it's my idea. You can come talk to me. A very small percentage I'll take right off the top. Yeah, Colin says Hoffman is a shell. I guess he means of his former self, and I could see him getting waived. I don't know. I don't know about waived, but yeah.
I mean, if they bury him in the minors, it only takes off like 700,000 in the cap space, so it's not. Yeah, doesn't do much.
Let's go to Costco, get him 100 hot dogs for $100. CJ's got it figured out. I'm telling you, buddy. Get those hot dogs ready on the bench for him, and just any day in between a shift, you feel like a dog, buddy. Here you go. Doesn't matter if it hurts your performance. We're bad anyway. Who cares, right? All right, Aaron, let's talk about our future miseries here. We've got some upcoming games. We've got Tuesday against the Philadelphia Flyers, Thursday against the Edmonton Oilers, which some folks in the chat are telling me that's going to be a dub for the very first dub of the season for the San Jose Sharks. Friday at the Vegas Golden Knights, and then Sunday at the Anaheim Ducks. Aaron, CJ waiting for that super chat, adding Marlowe and Thornton with some more tickets. Yeah, that's true. It probably would some more tickets. Anyway, so these 4 games here, Aaron, talk to me about those 4 games. What do you think? I know we've talked a little bit about when in earlier seasons how the record would go, and then this season's kind of been how much are they going to lose by, right? So are we talking about how much they're going to lose by with all 4 of these games? Are we in contention with any of these ones? Again, we got some folks in the chat saying Edmonton's the game. It's the game we're going to break the streak.
If there's a team that they're going to beat, it's either Philadelphia or Edmonton. Those 2. I can see them beating either one of those. So which team is going to be the one that ends the losing streak for the Sharks? And no team wants to be in that position either. So yeah, I can see either one of those 2 being a win. I don't think Edmonton. I think Edmonton's just going to smoke them. I think the Sharks are going to be a slump buster again for Edmonton, and they're going to turn things around starting on Thursday.
The San Jose slump busters, huh?
Yeah, Friday's pretty much a scheduled loss, a back-to-back going into Vegas after being home against Edmonton. So that means that most likely will be the actual win for the season, the first win of the season in Vegas on the road on a back-to-back. And then Sunday, Anaheim. Anaheim's kind of surprising people, and they're pretty good. So I don't see them beating Anaheim right now. They're a pretty hot team right now.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of tough.
Okay. So, I don't know, man. I want to go through some of the chat on some of these because there's some pretty funny stuff happening here. Let's see. I think it was Hitman. Was it Hitman? Well, Ben and Gunsby says 68 losses now is probable. Yes, it is. Absolutely. Peter St. John says, I don't think we're going to win any of those games. Peter, it's hard to argue with you because we haven't won a single game all year. Hitman says they won't beat Philly. There you go. But he says Edmonton. Edmonton seems like it's going to be the game. That
watch us lose to Edmonton, but then beat Vegas. That's what I was saying.
Jeez, man, that would be what bizarre world are we living in if that's what happens? You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Oh my God. Okay, so Noah says no. When we play Edmonton, it's the first game we score 3 or 4, but lose by giving up 5 or 6. Yeah, that's kind of how it's been going. Except we haven't scored that many. It was the most we scored all year was 2 in a game, wasn't it?
Twice. We did in the last game.
We did twice
against Pittsburgh.
We don't have any games that we've scored 3 is what my point there. Yeah. No. We can't win. We only score 1 goal. But no, we did score 2, Anthony Sanchez. Watch us lose to Edmonton, beat Vegas. Noah shares your enthusiasm for that comment. There you go.
Scotty K. The worse the Sharks do, the more people watching the Fin Factor Live. This is true.
Isn't that weird?
Well,
we just noticed.
Bad. They're historically bad. Everyone wants to weigh it and dump more on them. So yeah, it makes sense.
It's so funny.
Either one way or the other, right?
Yeah. Either when we're really good, lots of people show up. Really bad, lots of people show up. I don't know. It's what it is, man. Like we said, no matter what, we're here for you. Okay, this is like our weekly therapy session for Sharks fans. We don't have all the answers, but we certainly like talking about it. So again, we love having you guys here. This is what makes the show so much fun for us, is having you guys in here chatting it up. I know there's a little bit of contention maybe in the chat right now. Some guys disagreeing a little bit here and there, but it's all misery for everybody. So we can at least share that with each other. So there you go.
We just stunk.
I think some of these younger guys, we can highlight a little bit of it. Like they're playing pretty well, right?
Sure.
I think you sent me a list, didn't you?
Oh, you know what? I want to call out Nick HBK 150, who's a fan of the show. I haven't seen him in the chat here, so maybe he's got better things to do. Can't imagine what that might be. But yes, he did send me a suggestion of something to talk about with you fine folks here, and it's going to take me a while to figure out where that was. Was that?
You want me to read them off?
Yeah, go ahead. Fire away if you got it.
Will Smith is playing NCAA. In 8 games, he's got 5 goals and 6 assists. Quentin Musty, who has become one of my favorite players, I'm very excited about because I watched him play a few times, and he's a man amongst boys. 9 games, 5 goals, 8 assists in the OHL. Kasper Halttunen, he's playing the OHL. He's got 15 games in. He's got 10 goals and 3 assists. Jake Furlong, he playing in juniors, Quebec Major Juniors, 16 games. He's a defenseman. He's got 1 goal and 13 assists. And Luca Cagnoni, who plays in the WHL, 13 games. He's got 2 goals and 17 assists.
I want to say that's pronounced Cagnoni.
Cagnoni?
Yeah.
Is that the Italian?
I know there's a G there, but I'm pretty sure.
Sorry.
No worries. Italian. Just trying to help and do my part as the Dan Rosnowski of the show.
Thank you.
So there you are. Okay. So, again, we talked about how, the Sharks they're not rebuilding properly or whatever else. Well, we do have some pretty promising prospects. They're doing well in their respective leagues. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that would be promising for the future. Maybe not next year, maybe not even 2 years from now, but hopefully a little bit down the line, we see these guys kind of stepping in. And don't discount the Barracuda either. Even if some of these guys don't make it to the show, if they're playing for the San Jose Barracuda, they're also a part of a team for other prospects that will eventually be playing on the Sharks and are a part of that development as well. And when you're playing with good enough players, guys that are playing well in the AHL but just can't quite get it done in the NHL, it's still helping your development quite a bit. So they do still have their role to play in that capacity, even if they don't make it to the show. So again, fingers crossed for these guys. We hope the best for them, obviously, because it means the best for the team. But it sounds like there's quite a handful of recent prospects, guys that are from picks that maybe Greer had or some trades that happened there in this regime that could turn into something, hopefully. So, like I said, we'll just have to wait and see. Again, a lot of this stuff, when we're talking about a rebuilding team, a lot of people are focusing on the right now, and really the GM and everybody else in the organization is more focused on the futures and what the team is going to look like. So, in any case, he said, Anthony Sanchez says, "Go watch the CUDA." Yeah, we had done that last season actually. So, this season it seems like the better players from that were moving up into the main club. But I don't know if Bordelow's going back down and Mook Madulan is out over there. Those are 2 of the 3 guys that I was interested in, and Eklund's the one guy on the Sharks trying to do anything, and it's just not getting it done. So anyway, Aaron, any other thing you want to call out in the chat here? I know we've been going for a little bit.
Yeah, Ben just said, back to the All-Star question, no brainer. Send the Fin Factor crew. It's obvious how well y'all performing, keeping things entertaining, given what we've got right now. All-Star level, man. Thanks. I appreciate that. That's awesome. It's good to hear. it is tough. It's hard when, man, I went to that game on Thursday and then looked at the score on Saturday because I was too busy even watch the game. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe 2 games in a row giving up 10 goals. I was like, oh, Monday night's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. People are going to want to talk about it. Either we're going to have nobody show up or we're going to have a lot more people show up. So I'm glad it was the latter. Anyway, yeah, there's some great comments. Thanks for all the participation tonight. It's fun and it helps, kind of gives us a good chuckle and helps drive the show as well. So thanks for coming. It's like therapy session here. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, echoing those same sentiments, guys. Thank you so much for being in the chat with us again. This is, as Dark and Donkey calls it, it's a therapy session in here. Absolutely. So, we're glad to provide the service for you guys, right? But again, a lot of you guys are doing it for yourselves in the chat there. So again, we do appreciate you guys being there. And again, as these shows are happening, if you've not been subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe, because we only really do this thing once a week. So you'll know when we're doing it. We'll go live. You can jump in the chat. Again, please share us, repost or retweet or whatever the word is now. Get us back out there to your Sharks friends and family. If you're enjoying it, they probably will too. And of course, you'll have a friend in the chat. So there you go. And yes, thank you, Super Producer Jason. If you can like, subscribe, ring the bell, all those things. As if you don't know, you're on YouTube. You know how it works, but we're going to tell you anyway. So there you go. If you would like to support the show, however, again, last time I'll tell you this one, maybe for the next show we do it. I don't know. Super chat function is there for you. Venmo is there at the Fin Factor. You go ahead and put in a comment. We will read it live on the air as soon as we see it. That's a great way to support the show. If you want to support the show and get something in return, like a canteen, not the one that Aaron was just drinking from, or a hat, or a sweatshirt, or a t-shirt, or a hoodie, or whatever else. We have lots of stuff there. Go to thefinfactor.com, check it out. You can support us that way and get something in return.
Noah,
yeah, go ahead.
Noah Claxton, when are you going to be on the back of the set? Are you aiming to get back in the new set November 13th of next year? No, very soon. Very soon, I'm telling you. We had to design 4 set walls. Those are done, or redesign the 4 set walls that we had. And then there's kind of a center column that we got the design for, and I think we are currently building. I don't know if Super Producer Jason has any updated pictures, because he's the one that's working a lot with my dad on getting it built. He did just get some new LED strips that are going to be incorporated into the set that are pretty rad. And yeah, I don't want to give away everything or the full design, so that, there'll be a little bit of a surprise for you guys, but looking to get all of that set up in the space and everything else, so that we are no longer in the void floating heads on screens, because I'm really sick of it. I want to be back in person and sitting. Our chemistry is a lot better. We can actually talk to each other and flow better, I feel like, than we do online. So I'm excited to get that done. Plus, we'll do some fun, more shows with more interviews and stuff like that. So I swear it's coming. I swear.
I don't know what you're talking about, Aaron. I feel like I flow perfectly every time. So there you go. Chat doesn't get a chance to disagree with me on this one, because I'm going to sign out as fast as I can. Guys, for Super Producer Jason, what? What did I do? For, you know what? Not for Super Producer Jason anymore. Fine, just for me. I'm Paul.
And I'm Aaron.
And I'm covered up, but by me. So you still lose. We'll see you guys
next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, check out our other content, especially interviews. You can interact with us directly through social media at The Fin Factor and on Instagram at Fin Factor. And don't forget to join our live streams on YouTube.
Visit our website at thefinfactor.com, where you'll find all of our episodes as videos or podcasts. You'll also find our exclusive merchandise to help support our